Hi everyone and welcome to episode 242 at Mike White's podcast. I'm Jack, as always joined by KC.
Alan?
How's things, mate?
Yeah, not bad, thanks. You?
Yeah, all good. Managed to get done at work at a decent time so I can get this in before our last finishes work and I can start with parenting duties again then. It's much better timing. And it's always better when you're coming in, even though it's like 3 days later now, when you win, it basically means the rest of your week's good.
Yeah, we can put behind the blandness of Rotherham now. We've fully moved away to excelling in the second half of games, defending on the front foot early on.
Yeah, I mean, it's luckily Leeds can have nice boring starts to games now, as we saw against Swansea. I still think the Swansea one was probably slightly more mental. There was something about one of them being disallowed that made it weirder. But this game was just an insane way to start. We'll just go straight into it and be fairly chronological. Leeds 3, Middlesbrough 2. For the first half, there was no defending. Either team. None of it. Both teams played well going forward. Both teams couldn't quite get the press right. And both teams were good enough to take advantage of the press not being right. So 1-0 in the third minute, Middlesbrough. They play their way through midfield. I've just seen the goal back. I haven't seen much back. I've just quickly watched the goals again. Joe Rodon is in the middle of midfield, pressing high, in the way that we did with was it Strauch that did it on Cassaday away at Leicester? Like they just pushed the centre right up, and we were doing that again in this. And on this occasion, we didn't get near them. They played the way through with a couple of quick passes, and suddenly Al Bangura is out on the left with 25 yards to move into and no one near him. Brings it forward, plays a good ball down the channel. Emmanuel Latte Laugh, who I said, Middlesbrough look light up front, unless that Latte Laugh is any good, because I don't know all about him. And he was their best player. Cuts inside Archie Gray. I don't think it's been too critical to say far too easily cuts inside Archie Gray. I don't think it was very good defending. And he hits a very well-struck shot in at the near post, which Meslier then seemed to be complaining at his defence about, but as far as I can tell, it just didn't look like very good goalkeeping. Having seen it back, I think it's because Rodon turns slightly, and he's saying, if you stand square, you might block that. But overall, I think it's one he probably should save.
Yeah, as I'm looking at it, I think there's probably Rodon and another striker in his sort of in front of him as the shots hit. He probably could still do better. Shouldn't have got there really. Yeah,
Now,
it's ultimately it's probably the main criticism you have of Archie Gray from that game, because I think otherwise he played very well.
Well, it was a lot of people's match.
Yeah,
it was good.
And
it was very good.
Whether it's one of those things just because it's happening in the first, it's the first thing he's really had to deal with in the game, and he's maybe not got going, but he's just he almost sends himself for a hot dog. To be fair, he just the turn is very simple, and he just doesn't seem to have his feet set for it. And then the manic 5 minutes begins.
Well, I believe that was the 3rd minute. And then, so in the 5th minute, Middlesbrough actually break again quite well, play their way through, get to the edge of our box, and it's Strauch that makes a tackle in our own box. And it sort of gets popped out, and it's Somerville picks it up, brings it out through midfield, plays a really good ball out to Dan James. Dan James is running down on goal. The defenders don't come across because he's got a square pass on. So they just let him go. And Dan James, for some reason, tries to chip the keeper, which wasn't the right finish for the situation with a defender back on the line, but chips it past. It does beat Dieng, but cleared off the line. That clearance Leeds immediately recycle it, get it out to Jorginho Rutter, who has a pretty good chance. Good low drive, saved well by Dieng. And then they get it down for a second, go to play a pass, make a mess of a pass straight to Byram. Byram goes outside the defender, gets to the byline, his left foot, cross to the back post, loops up really high, and Dan James attacks it like Alan fucking Shearer. Just throws himself forward, out jumps him, strikes on everything, and heads it in the corner. Leeds end up with, after conceding the goal in the 3rd minute, Leeds have 3 excellent chances in the next 90 seconds. And score the 3rd one.
It's one of those where I am clearly one of those who is all for playing out from defence. But every now and again, just send it. Just send it down the line.
It looked like they were trying to clip it into that Matt Crooks, who looked like a really good player, but they just left it like 10 yards short. So it just went straight to Byram.
Yeah, the Byram one is absolutely nowhere near. And the fact it's perfectly weighted for him to bring it down and then go around the outside. Yeah, I can only imagine you'd be very disappointed getting beaten by Dan James. And if you look, the defender essentially has his back to James. So he's really got no decent starting position at all for it.
Yeah, he doesn't know where the attacker is. He isn't set to jump. I don't think he's 100% sure where the ball is either.
No.
Whereas, although he's got a few inches on that, and he also isn't that big himself. He's bigger than Dan James, but Dan James has, because of where he's making the run from and how well timed the run is, he can see the whole picture, and the defender can see maybe a quarter of it.
Again, one of the big. We've always said about Dan James, it times his runs to perfection. One of his best qualities.
Never gets caught offside silly.
Yeah, and you just look and go, wow, a towering header from Dan James. Whatever next?
Yeah, whatever next indeed. But obviously, good to get an equaliser very quickly. And the crowd, this was the bit where the crowd did really get up for it, because it was fairly flat for a lot of the game. But at this stage, it was really going. Literally 90 seconds or so later, Roden brings it out from the back. We play the way through. It's Roden into Gray, who tucks it inside for James. James inside to Rutter, if I remember right. Rutter drives in at the defenders and ends up with 4 defenders all around him. So when he squares it out wide to Archie Gray, he's got 10 yards of space. So it's a decent first-time cross from Gray. It's a little bit short considering who's in the box, but Paddy McNair's flick on turns it into a perfect cross. Flicked on, and Crescencio Somerville diving header like Lee Chapman, who I believe, because I saw it on Twitter, I think it might be his birthday today or yesterday or something.
It was David Batty's a couple of days ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because the highlights the admin shows was David Batty beats up Ronaldo.
Yeah, it is Lee Chapman's birthday today. Happy birthday, Lee Chapman. But yeah, Somerville. He doesn't get it right in the corner, but he gets plenty of power on it. And because the cross originally was going to be short, Dieng is favouring towards his near post. And the flick on makes it very difficult for him to get across to it. And yeah, a hell of a 7 minutes to start the game.
Yeah, Dieng gets his hand to it. But yeah, he's starting from his front post, and as soon as McNair gets that touch, he's just trying to scramble back across. But yeah, we just what's that? 8 minutes, 9 minutes have we got so far into this game?
It's I think it's. According to BBC Sport website, some of those goals was in the 7th minute.
Okay, brilliant. And you just look in thinking, this is madness. Like you'd be so disappointed, not only with some of what happened in the build up to those goals, but the 2 smallest players on the pitch have scored headers. you'd be bitterly disappointed.
Well, I mean, it's worth mentioning now. He was. I mean,
Michael Carrick's post match was interesting. Although I will say, there was part of me did think, right, but do think about the number of chances you created in this game, Michael. It wasn't many.
It wasn't loads, but it was.
There was. I'm not going to lie. There was some big chances in there.
Yeah, not the next real chance in the game. That Matt Crooks again, who was a weird player, because he was like playing quite deep, and he was pretty skillful and pretty creative, but he looked like a just big shithouse lump of a forward. But he looked pretty good. But he played a really good through ball again for that latter laugh, and Melier came flying off his line and made a really good save to deny him. And that was like one of the bigger chances we had. They also had a free header, didn't they? That laugh put over.
Yeah.
They didn't have shitloads of chances, but they were nearly all big ones.
I think then we entered the portion of the game where it was decided that pulling a shirt was not a bookable offence at all.
Yeah, there was two of them in a row, one the down Leeds' right, their left, where they just got away. And the most blatant fact, those professional, you take a yellow and move on, you see it every game. And there was two of them in the space of about 4 minutes where neither of them were yellow cards. And then Rutter did it, chasing back, the exact same thing, something that absolutely was a yellow and got booked. And that's when the crowd started really losing the rag with the ref. Because it absolutely was a yellow, but the other two were as well. I think, obviously, we'll come on to it, but it says a lot that the ref got booed off at half-time when he'd given us a penalty.
Yeah. It was quite frustrating with a couple of those, because there's, if I remember rightly, I think the first one's on Dan James, and it's just absolutely cynical. Like, it's the most blatant, you're just not getting past. Really, which, again, for a referee who I thought for the most part, I think outside of that, I didn't really have many issues with. It just seemed to be not giving these bookings that, especially for fullback, if your fullback against Dan James, if that happens to you in the first half, as a fullback, it's a bit of a problem when you're defending against someone as quick as that. But and then the aging Paddy McNair, his legs aren't up to it anymore, and
we realised on the last podcast, KC had it in his head that Paddy McNair was about 35 when he's 28.
Yeah, legs are gone, mate. And you know what? I've been proved right.
But in fairness, he was their best ball-playing defender by the looks of it. And he goes off injured, and on comes Matt Clark. Now, if I remember rightly, Matt Clark is the one that scored that own goal for Derby on the day where they had to give us the Guard of Honour when we showed up pissed and beat him. Right?
Is that when Mateus Click sat around just giving him shit?
Yeah. And he came on and everyone sort of remembered him. And the topic in the stand was, oh, that is him. He's never looked any good against us. Anyway, 20 seconds later, Dieng, shit kick from Dieng, straight to Ampadu. Ampadu doesn't waste any time, plays it straight back, first time into little on edge at box. Turns past Clark. Clark he doesn't make the worst fist of the first attempt at a tackle, but Rutter still gets past him. And then he just grabs his leg as he's going by. And Rutter does still get the shot away very weakly, like on a 45-degree angle, but pulled back lightly for a penalty. I must admit, you have to point out when it happens. Good refereeing, because how often do they refuse to give it if someone gets the shot away? Even when it's a blatant penalty?
It was... I think we had a very good angle for it as well from where we are, because you just see Clark gets beaten, goes to ground, and just grabs his leg.
Yeah, it's a panic, isn't it? You go, oh shit,
yeah.
and just
if you watch the extended highlights as well on the Leeds channel, Matt Clark's coming on as a substitute is like seeing a yellow card on Match of the Day. It's that level of foreshadowing that nothing to see here. Just a first half substitution, nothing to worry about. Obviously they get very unlucky with the kick because it falls straight to us. I can't remember who it was that picks it up in the first place. It's Ampadu.
Yeah, it's Ampadu when he plays it straight. Like the thing that's good about it, it would have been so much easier to take a touch in that situation. But he goes straight for the pass. Don't give him any time to settle.
And I'm guessing as well, because sort of Kamara is en route for that pass as well. And I don't know if he gets the shout from Ruter to leave it, but he lets it go past him. Ruter with a decent touch and turn. And yeah, just madness. It can't do your confidence any good at all when that happens to you in a game.
No, not when matches start.
No.
And then Joe Peru steps up with the penalty, and for the first time since Rafinha, I was confident that Leeds were going to score a penalty.
I think the first words I heard from someone are, Patrick Bamford is not on the pitch. Who we will come on to.
I haven't got that for any notes, so you'll have to remind me. But yeah, that was a story of it. But I mean, the end goes the right way, but it's too good a penalty to save.
Yeah,
nice
penalty from a striker who I thoroughly trust with a penalty.
Yeah, it was a difference in atmosphere because there was a thing going on, but I think it was roughly that like Leeds is if you made penalty XG specific to Leeds instead of being like 0.74, it would be 0.5 because we miss about half of them.
Oh dear, yeah.
But he hammered it home. Good penalty. Leeds then, you're 3-1 up. And we're also on top at that point. And you are now thinking, right, we should be okay here. But the thing that I've pointed out a few times this season, and I'm not the only one, we do seem to have a thing about going to sleep at the end of halves. And Buller get a corner.
If we
Dan Barlow it's a good one, but
if we played by rugby, if we played by rugby times, we'd be fine. You know, if we put in a solid 80 minutes, I think we'd all be fine. But yeah, it's one of those annoying things that's just becoming a touch too common. Is conceding at that stage of a half, and I know it's not as bad when you're still going in at halftime with a 3-2 lead, but you know, it does kind of send the opposition in with something to hang on to. And it's I can only imagine if you park it must be getting really frustrating for him to have to go in at several half times and think like, lads, could you not? Could one of you just head that away, please?
Yeah, having just seen the goal back, it looks like it was probably that it should have been Byram's ball, but he sort of got under it.
He seems to be leaning back as he's attacking it, doesn't he?
Yeah. It's a good header, again, that Emmanuel Laff, who when they took him off in the second half, he must have been exhausted because I couldn't believe they were subbing him.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it came in at 3-2, and a 3-2 that could have easily been sort of 5-4. Because, I mean, Ruter had a great chance in a bit earlier on in the first half as well that he should have done better with. There was a couple of really good chances to break where both teams didn't use the space properly that they could have had. Because there was just no defending for long periods. But 3-2 at half time. And if you would have offered me 10-1 on 0-0 second half, I don't think I'd have backed it.
No. I'm just having a look. Probably someone to focus on a little bit for the first half as well is Ruter, who seemed to cut something of a frustrated figure for most of the afternoon. He had that chance sort of midway through the first half where he gets it out of his feet and he seems to have a good 5-10 yards in front of him, and he absolutely lashes at it with his left foot from about 25 yards, and it goes flying over, and you're just kind of looking, going, that's not really you.
Normally he's more likely to try a pass when he should shoot than try a shot when he should pass.
Yeah, and obviously, like you said, he had that chance where he goes sort of 1-on-1 from the right hand side with Dieng and just hits it low at his feet.
And in the second half, he had the biggest chance of the lot where he's clean through, goes right-footed for the corner, and in the ground, it looked like he had just missed, and it was just a shite finish, and a goal kick was given. But apparently, I haven't seen it back yet, but apparently that was actually a really good save. So it wasn't quite as bad a miss as it looked. But still, one.
Is that the one where it just looks like he's just curled it wide from the centre of goal?
Yeah, it was. He had a weird game, did Rutter. I mean, he was still very effective. He still was beating his man constantly, getting into good positions, being creative. He was still well worth being on the pitch. But he did have a bit of a weird game, and he did look pissed off. I think but just with himself, I think.
Yeah. I was surprised he ended up staying on as long as he did. Like, it's one of those things with players of that sort of quality, especially as a striker. There is always the chance they will do something out of nothing, and you kind of forget about the rest of the performance. But especially once he ended up on a yellow card, you were thinking he probably needs to come off sharpish.
Yeah, because it wasn't until 80-something minutes that he finally went off. The second half, they definitely could have been more goals, but we were I thought we were the better side throughout it. Really, I do think Middlesbrough deserve a lot of credit. I thought they played pretty well, but we just had. It was as if both teams were playing probably to similar levels, just that we have better players. So we looked more of a threat than they did. The main incident was obviously that Dijksteel got booked in the first half for clipping Somerville. And then there was one just ball got away from him a little bit. Dan James gets it away and he's just late on him. There's no malice in it, but it's late and it's a yellow card every day at week.
Yeah, especially the ball's in behind him and Somerville's running towards goal. It's a yellow card, but it's one of those things. So did Somerville and James, I thought, again, sort of correct cause, probably more so through the first half, but were causing problems for the fullbacks most of the afternoon. And sort of like I said before, in terms of the one on Dan James not getting the yellow card in the first half, that's sort of why, if you got players like that who are just constantly going to be rolling off your shoulder, there's every chance that sort of thing happens.
Yeah. But so Leeds against 10 men, but it's still Leeds. We'll still figure out a way. Obviously, we've been pressing really high in this game all game. Kamara was, there's that old quote, you can pair up if you like and you can bring your fucking dinner because by the time I'm done with you, you're going to need it. Well, Glenn Kamara earned his fucking dinner. He ran around. He was everywhere just pressing, but we were still pressing so high. And then once in the second half, we misjudged it and they just got past us and suddenly they had 3-on-2. And it was a Silvera that went through, hit the shot. I think it was deflected off Strauch. It sort of looped up and hit the post. And that was one thing that you thought was a big let-off. But it fell to Morgan Rogers, who basically has an open goal. And Joe Rodon makes as good a block as you are going to see this season. Absolutely throws himself at it. It's a brilliant piece of defending.
Heroic. It's the term I would use for it. I didn't think I was going to be hearing a quote from John Sitton on this podcast anytime soon, so that was a nice little...
I would have said that, but I couldn't remember his name.
It was clearly part of the plan. because there's a few times when, and as you spoke about with the first goal we conceded, that Rodon's quite high up the pitch. Strauch would often go.
Yeah, it was normally one or the other, but there was nearly always one of them basically in midfield.
And then Kamara's pushed very high up, and he can run all day. He can absolutely do that. And like you say, he just caused problems for them. Not that I think Dieng minded too much because he clearly loves having the ball anyway. But they like, you were watching them go, right, but you are now playing out of your 6-yard box. It's like even I was looking at it going, this is a bit nervy.
Oh, I mean, we really, it's sort of the thing now. He's a goalkeeper that invites pressure, and if he's 100% on it, that makes it easier to beat the press because he can leave the pass later.
Yeah.
But he has a mistake in him, and he made a couple with the ball at his feet. One of them, which basically directly led to the third goal. He made a couple of good saves. He's a good goalkeeper, but it does scare the life out of you. When Melier does it, it does. The crowd are finally starting to get used to it a little bit when he just puts his foot on it and waits. But it's never going to go away. But yeah, Leeds, then they just managed to hang on. We maybe could have got one late on. There was a good ball in from Nonto, which Bamford made a really, really good flick header on after he came on. Dieng made a good save, and Pirot just like instinctively shoves a toe at it. And if it goes anywhere other than straight back at the goalkeeper, it's a goal. But it does. That was probably the biggest chance late on, other than their one hitting the post. In the end, deserved win, but Middlesbrough, I think, will end up higher than they are now, because Middlesbrough are 12th. From having watched a lot of teams this season, I reckon they'll still get in the playoffs.
Yeah, they seem to, and I think they've got a few players out at the moment as well, and they still seem to be doing all right. I think for me, ultimately, I was probably quite disappointed that we didn't try to change it, especially after the red card, because again, and I feel like I'm saying this every week now, it kind of felt like we just didn't have the intensity that we needed to in the second half, and like we didn't make any changes till the 82nd minute. And
yeah, I was surprised that I thought Bamford had come on earlier, and I thought Nonto would have probably come on earlier as well.
Yeah, and there's part of me thinks like if you're Nonto and if you've got a bit of a point to prove purely in terms of trying to get a place back in the team, you've got so little time to get back in the game in that amount of time. Because I said to you on Saturday, I wonder come January if someone like Jadon Anta looks and goes, well, I'm sort of wasting my time here. I might, is it worth him looking for a loan elsewhere? Not through any fault of his own. Like you can't knock Dan James and Crescencio Somerville for the form they're in. But he is the fourth choice winger here. And I think he probably came here, and especially looking at the situation when he arrived, thinking, I will probably get into this team fairly comfortably. And it's not happening for him. And again, like I said, through no fault of his own. And do we need to be covering the wages of someone like that who's not going to play that often while we've still got Poveda?
Yeah. I mean, I think that he will be allowed also, because at some point, one of the wingers is going to get injured. Like, it will happen, and that's when they'll fight out and get their chance. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure that he's frustrated, because when he came here, he probably thought that Nonto was the one that was nailed on. And maybe I can get in ahead of the other two, and it's turned out that Somerville and James have been that good.
Yeah.
But no, I'm just looking through the side. I thought Byron was really good again. Not perfect, but really good. Obviously, other than I thought he got done a little bit easily on the first goal. Archie Gray was excellent all game. There was a couple of times where he got a bit overconfident with the try to turn out of trouble. And where you would go as far as saying, no, that was a bad decision. You put yourself under needless pressure there. You didn't need to. But you'd rather they have the confidence to do it than not do it. I think I ended up saying that I gave Glenn Kamara man at match, and most of it was just for how brilliant he was off the ball. He was really good.
You just think as well his ability to turn out of pressure. When he pulls that L turn off and just starts heading towards Borough's goal midway in our half.
He did a brilliant one in the first half, didn't he?
Yeah, and he does it quite a few times. He seems to. It's not so much that he's sort of fainting in one direction. He just seems to stand up. So it's almost like it's quite difficult to read him more than him like dropping the shoulder than anything else. And this ability to just sort of clear 5 yards as quickly as he does. But yeah, he's playing with so much confidence now. But like you said, and his pressing was fantastic.
Yeah. There is one little bit of news. I mean, the 21s game unsurprisingly got called off, as did the 18s, all that stuff. There is one bit of news. Something that only happens really with South America a lot and sometimes in North American stuff as well. Colombia are playing a couple of friendlies, not in the international break. They're playing Venezuela on the 10th and Mexico on the 16th in the United States. One of the players called up, and even though Lee do not have to release him, they have said, yeah, all right, Jan Poveda.
Yeah, but from what I've read, it's kind of a case of, and I don't know about the nations they're playing, but it seems to be sort of a collection of fringe players and those who were available.
Yeah, can you remember a few years ago, Mexico got very nearly got to FIFA World #1, and it was because they played a load of these, but second string Mexico was way better than second string all the countries around Mexico.
Yeah.
So by the end of the year, they'd played 15 more games than all these other teams around them, and won 13 of them. But they are full international, so it will be his debut.
Yeah, good for him.
And if I was Daniel Farker, I'd let him go as well. Like he probably isn't going to play that much, and it's a big opportunity.
I mean, as we were just saying about Jadon Anthony, Poveda's behind him. So I don't know. I think Poveda is one of those. He is a player that Fark likes, but when you're talking James, Somerville, Anthony, Nonto, he's just not on that level.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I don't think it does him any harm for him to go away to get a bit of international experience. I know he had it with, is it under England under 19s? He was with he's had some English youth caps, I believe.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what it is, but I'm relatively sure that you're right about that.
But yeah, it's a really good chance for him, and also a bit of a chance for him to put himself in the shop window.
Yeah, he played 16s, 17s, 18s, 19s, and under 20s.
Oh, okay.
For England. But
is this on top of all the teams he played for in his youth career as well?
Yeah, he moved around a lot, didn't he? Arsenal, Chelsea, Brentford, Barca, Man City.
I'll tell you what. You just read that out as a list. There's one team there.
It's because he's clearly got loads of talent, though, and he just isn't. And I'd say he's not a kid anymore. He's 23.
Yeah,
like it's the way that you talk about it. It's like Shackleton. You're a good player. You're just not quite good enough to get in this side. So you in the summer, you'll probably have to go somewhere where you will. But we don't want rid of you because we know you're good. It's a weird.
Yeah, he's without playing that much. Like I know he played a bit more early doors because of the situation, but he's not really featured much outside of a couple of subs appearances. I think he's turned, myself included, I think he's turned quite a few around on him, because I kind of looked at him when he was last playing for us and thought, well, loves to loves to have a go at people, a bit of a turn, but there's not a lot of end products there. And there seems to be more of an end product now, and I think a bit more. I think a bit more endeavour from him as well on the defensive side.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that, I don't know if a couple of, the loans have helped him with that.
Yeah, I know it wasn't the greatest stand in the world, but he did get a few, quite a lot of games when he was at Blackpool, didn't he? And that'll have helped.
Yeah, just looking here, 24 games for Blackpool in the Championship, 10 for Blackburn, and obviously that one was interrupted by a bad injury. But yeah, like I said, hopefully he does well, and if nothing else, he puts himself in a shop window for someone to think he might be worth a punt in January.
Yeah. So that puts us. We are 7 points behind Ipswich, still 8 behind Leicester. I think the bit that's sort of being undersold is we are now 10 points clear of 7th, and I think that's pretty good going, because that's the minimum for this season. The minimum is the playoffs. So, like, if 10 points clear of that, you are doing quite well, and you just hope, and hopefully we end up better than that. Saturday, 12:30. Is this actually on telly, or did it just get moved for police?
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I'm not either. Weirdly, it's but as always, away at Blackburn, we will have 1 billion tickets for this, which is always good to see. So yeah, Blackburn away, Saturday 12:30. Blackburn this season are 7. Oh.
Sorry, it is not on TV.
All right, cool. It might even be on the red button though, because it's outside of the. It still will be done before the blackout.
The thing I'm looking at just says it will not be shown on TV in the UK.
Ah, right. Then it isn't. Then it'll be other means. The visual radio, as it has been described elsewhere.
Through my usual cable network nefarious means.
Yeah. They're 7th at Blackburn. A good side. I don't know the exact numbers, but Sammy Smodics, who's been playing number 10 for them, just cannot stop scoring goals. I now have it up. In 19 appearances, he has 14 goals and 2 assists, which is pretty outstanding. They've got that Andrew Moran, the Irish kid from Brighton, who's rated really highly, and they've got him on loan as well. He's meant to be really good. Adam Wharton in midfield is one of them that everyone wants.
They've got 2 Whartons. They've got a centre back as well, haven't they? It's Wharton.
Yeah, that I believe is Scott Wharton.
Yeah.
But him I know less about. Like Adam, at the start of the 3rd season on Football Manager, I have Adam Wharton as one of the midfielders on my bench because he's expected to get very good, and therefore he gets really good on the game. Don't know much about the keeper, but Walsh. Harry Pickering's a pretty good left back. I don't put any stock in like who scored ratings and stuff, but James Hill at right back, his average rating is very high, so he must be having an all right season.
Can we take a moment for the man with no vowels in his first name, Tyree Stolen? Tyrhys. Yeah. Fantastic. Well done.
Yeah, they also
his name was chosen by a game of Scrabble.
They have got the much less dodgy Sigurdsson, haven't they?
Yes,
Arno Sigurdsson. I've heard pretty good things about him, as well as Joe Rankin Costello, who he can play fullback both sides, and he's meant to be pretty good. But yeah, looking at this, when you look at the way that like the stuff is spread around their team, like they have a couple of players on 2 goals, a couple of players on 3, and then Sammy Smodics on 14. So if he's going to be playing at 10, there's your job, Ethan Ampadu, for this game. If you can stop Smodics, you've got a pretty good shot at winning this game.
Yeah. Just sort of looking at their recent form, very, very inconsistent. You're going from beat Millwall, lost to Swansea, beat Norwich but had a man sent off, lost to Preston, beat Stoke, beat Birmingham, lost to Sheff Wednesday.
Yeah, and apparently that game last time out against Sheff Wednesday, they were really shit.
And that man we were speaking about, Bailey Cadamartri, scored.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Well done.
That wasn't on here, was it? So we should probably mention. I think it was in the pub we were talking about Bailey Cadamartri.
Was it?
I can't remember if it was on. I can't remember if it was on here or not. But we're on about how. But I remember young Danny Cadamartri coming on as the youngster for Everton, and now I'm seeing his kid play.
Yeah.
But yeah, by all accounts, Blackburn were absolutely awful last time out.
To be honest, it's classic Leeds that I'm looking at here because Blackburn had 64% possession, 18 shots, 5 on target. Wednesday, 13 shots, 8 on target.
Yeah,
very, very clinical.
Based on what I saw on Twitter, there was no Blackburn fans saying like, "Oh, we got robbed there." It was just one of that. They all felt that they weren't very good. Yeah, they are very much a mixed up and down team. Like Leeds being away from home and being like a decent amount odds on it's surprising, but we're short for every game at the minute because we are playing really well. We obviously don't, other than Pervader, we don't know anything about injuries yet because nothing's been said.
No, what was it? I think from last time, Firpo they expected was about 3 weeks. So
yeah, and Gelhardt is a couple of weeks as well.
I'm just trying to think, did we have any particular injury concerns coming out of the game? But I don't think we did. Ethan Ampadu was taken to having a little sit down every now and again in most games to have a bit of a stretch, which always worries me. But no, there's nothing I can remember coming out of Saturday.
No. I do wonder if they might make one change because obviously we've got this and then we've got Sunderland away Tuesday night, which it's not an easy 2 games in 4 days. If he is fit, I do wonder if we might see Spencer at right back for Gray for this one.
Yeah, potentially. So I mean, I know he's only really had the one chance starting again. I wonder if he looks at sort of those fixtures and thinks about potentially putting Gruev in for one of them. Although I know it's probably a bit harsh judging him by it because obviously Stoke was a poor game generally. But he's just kind of got reverted back to Gruev off the bench with 10 minutes left.
Yeah. But when I look at us at the minute, that's the only change I can see, to be honest. I think it's either unchanged or Spence plays. I would quite like to see him play Spence, to be honest, because in theory, he's as good a right back / right wing back as anyone in this league. And
yeah,
you sort of do need, now that he's fit, you do need to play him. He needs minutes. And Archie Gray having a little bit of a rest won't do him any harm. It also gives us the option of playing him for half an hour if Kamara's knackered after 60 minutes from running his arse off.
Yeah, that's like you say, if you're going Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, and then not long after that, we're into the Christmas period. So you'd think it might be a time to, even if it's just off the bench, get a few players a bit of game time before they might be needed in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. I haven't had a prediction off Connor yet because this has come together a bit last minute. I will tweet his out closer to the time. But Alex has gone for 1 apiece for this. I'm going to go for what? They've got white on their kit. We will be in an away kit. Will we be in the like yellowy one?
I was thinking that because obviously our blue is much darker. Like I would like to think they could distinguish between those 2 kits.
Yeah,
but
I think it'll be City of Culture 3rd kit, won't it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go full on into the superstition, and I'm going to say we get beat 2-1. Because normally when I say that, we play better.
I'm going to go back to us winning, and I'm going to say 2-0 win.
2-0 win. In fairness, when we went a bit negative on the last one, we weren't. It's not like we were millions of miles off. But no, that will be. It should be a good game. This again. Probably, I could do with us not having quite as insane a start as the last two games. Well, 3 goals in 7 minutes and 2 goals and 1 disallowed in 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Is the last two. So we could maybe do with being a bit calmer than that. But again, I'm just looking through. And as with most games at this level, player for player, I just think we've got that side. But Sammy Smodics is playing that well that if you don't stop him, he will punish it. And that you can't. If a team is just good, but has one great player in a key position, that can really lift a team. And Blackburn are a bit like that at the minute, so we need to stop him.
Yeah. Yeah, you're very much looking at Ethan Ampadu, aren't you, to have a really good game. And to be fair, with how he's done this season, I don't think it'd be too much of a problem for him to keep that up.
Yeah. Well, for the Middlesbrough game, I said the two I'd pick out is probably Roden and Dan James. And James had a big effect. Roden did in a way as well, but I don't think Roden tactically did as much as I would have done. Looking at this, I would probably go... If I was picking someone out that needs to have a good game, Ampadu, as we've said, and probably Byram, because it looks as if that Moran plays on the right for them most of the time, and what I've seen of him looks like a really good player.
Yeah. Yeah, it could probably do with maybe Strout picking up a little bit as well. I think he's been fine the last couple of games, but...
Yeah, he has had a little bit of off form, hasn't he, for a couple?
Yeah.
But as he's just working his way back from the surgery and stuff, it's probably down to that.
Yeah.
And then, in theory, we will, with the Sunderland game being the Tuesday night, we will have to get a fairly quick turnaround after the Blackburn game, so possibly even the Sunday.
Yeah.
If it works out. But that will do us for episode 242. Seven home wins in a row. You didn't... You wouldn't have expected, even dropping down a level, that feels nice.
Yeah. Smashing records this season, 7 home wins in a row, 13 away draws in the FA Cup.
I didn't even... That's how resigned I was to that FA Cup draw. I didn't even mention, it's Peterborough away.
I wouldn't even bother saying the team, just it's away.
It's away. You knew it was going to be away before it happened.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that game when we put the subs out, we lose, and we all move on from the FA Cup.
Yeah. Well, obviously that is one of our likely unlikelies from the UKC. Leeds to progress through 3 rounds of either cup, and we didn't do it in the League Cup, so
yeah. I'm trying to remember now if I meant 3 rounds total between the cups or in one.
I will have to listen back and check.
I think I might.
But I've written it down as of either.
Yeah.
But anyway, that will do us for episode 242. I've been Jack. See you.
I've been KC.